Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Marketing Monday Wins and Fails, where they go over all of the wins and the fails in the last week in marketing and business. This is our first episode after what is being called the YouTube election. Apparently, 33% of Americans get their news from YouTube now. I didn't know we had any influence here, and now I'm worried. This is also the first time we've done a Marketing Monday since Donald Trump has won, and we have to cover the economy. However, I have realized that a lot of my thoughts and takes on this election and why it played out the way it did and all of that have been confined to the Clips channel. So I want to do a quick recap here. I'm sure all of you are getting sick of 400 million different takes from every single person with an online platform over why the election went the way it did. I saw a tweet that really summed it up for me. Guy who's really into Sonic the Hedgehog. The Democrats lost because they didn't talk enough about Sonic the Hedgehog. So I'm going to give you what I have said for months since before the election, so at least that's some predictive power, is that most Americans feel like they are like this. They are occupying a smaller and smaller slice of the gigantic American pie. Not the movie, not the base movie. They generally feel like a lot of the wealth is getting sucked up by those at the top over a smaller and smaller bit of the pie. This is the only chart that matters in every country on earth. In around January 2021, inflation started to spike in every developed economy as part of the post-COVID inflation shock. All these countries printed a bunch of money and we got a ton of inflation. And so even as inflation has slowed since then, prices are still very high. This is not prices coming down, this is just the rate of change. And you know what that means? For the first time ever in the history of democracy, every single country that had a party in power lost votes. This has never happened before. This is generally the deep cause. People are mad about inflation. In America, outside of one swing state, every other swing state and America as a whole had price levels go higher than wage levels over the past 3 years. They feel like their wages aren't catching up enough with prices. Even as inflation has slowed, people are still equally concerned because prices haven't dropped. There's obviously some Trump voters who have absolutely fucking insane rationale behind their vote. But if you ask regular swing state voters, a lot of them will say this: I remember pre-2021 and it was better. Now, they're not doing a lot of deep introspection here. They're blaming this on Joe Biden, which I don't think is fair because it happened in every country. But this is a very simple, normal thing to think. If someone gives you an explanation for this election that doesn't include this, I would be very skeptical and I would think they probably have something to sell you. Let's focus in on what actually matters here. There are some economic wins during Joe Biden's presidency, but a lot of them have to do with the stock market and asset prices. Over the past 4 years, the stock market has done phenomenally well, but the stock market is owned by mostly the top 10% of Americans. So if you're not in the top 10%, stock market going up doesn't mean anything to you. If you want to see this visually, 97% of American net worth was held by the top 50%. Just the green and the blue here is the top 10%. If you add the dark blue, that's the top 50%. So that means half the country is this pink bar. They have no housing, they have no appreciating car, they're leasing their car. They have nothing that is going up in value as the gains of the economy go up. For all the arguments one way or another, and again, I did vote for Kamala Harris. For the first time in history, when the Democratic Party got the richest third of the population, giving them the highest vote. If you go back to like the 2008 election, the richest third didn't vote for Democrats at all. And the poorest third voted for Democrats at a high, it's like the Obama election. When you think about it, this makes sense because the richest third had a good time in the past 4 years. They want everything to stay the same. We also are at a point where stock markets have gotten so valuable that everybody who wants to get on the ladder of success is now part of the stock market. We now have the highest level of stock market participation among Americans ever. Like 68% of Americans have at least some stock. And that means if stock prices were to ever fall, not only will we have economic problems, this is a study that proved that when stock prices fall even a little bit, antidepressant prescriptions rise. Now, that brings us to today. Donald Trump has won. And what is happening in the first week or so since Donald Trump has won? Well, I can tell you one thing. The stock market's going up. Buy, buy, buy. Dow jumps 300 points. This is traders on the Wall Street floor putting on Trump hats and wearing Trump flags and all buying, buying, buying to the moon. The biggest winners for this wins and fails have been those that invested in what we're calling the Trump trade, things that are likely to go up during Donald Trump's presidency. Dogecoin is the single biggest rising asset class in the past week. Bitcoin has had an insane rise. Coinbase stock, beaten down, almost left for dead, is having a massive rise. These are all parts of what we're calling the Trump trade. That being said, there was a group of people who were inclined to agree with me. Those people were called Republicans. And as of Tuesday, they're going to stop agreeing with me. And around elections, it flips. Now, obviously, there's trends, and obviously, there's a lot of people who are outside of this binary system, but there's gonna be some people who days ago would have been like, yeah, Shrek, you're fucking right. The one thing that's rising that's not good as part of this Trump trade is US 10-year bond yields. And I know some of you literally fell asleep when I said that. All this implies is that the market, especially the institutional big traders, seem to think that inflation might come roaring back. As these bond yields tick up and tick up, it is a signal that the market does not believe that we are past inflation. If this is 5%, I expect, my guess would be that we see a panic reaction in the stock market. However, back to wins and fails. What is the number one winner, you think, of the Trump trade? Who on earth made out most like a bandit in this election? It's Elon fucking Musk.
American car company in generations, and his rocket company is the only reason we can now send American astronauts into space. Come here. Take over, Elon. Just take over.
Elon Musk, without a doubt, has been the number one winner of this first week of the Trump trade. With his trademark X-shaped jump, he has jumped into American politics in a major way and now wields untold power, influence, and even more financial power. Tesla has been euphorically rising. Again, if you go back to even a few months ago, Tesla was the worst performing stock in the S&P 500 this year. It had an absolutely miserable last year and a half, 2 years. And then as the Trump trade emerged, it has rocketed back to now above $1 trillion valuation. It is now back to being worth more than basically every car company combined again. People seem to think that this has made Tesla phenomenally more valuable than it was the day before the election. On Friday after the election, $245 billion of Tesla changed hands in the same day. The number 2 next most traded stock was Nvidia with only 55 billion, and then there was about 300 billion for every other stock in the market. That means Nvidia and Tesla alone had more trading volume than every other stock in America combined. If you ignore market's tendency to mean revert, which means sort of go back to the normal average, everything is basically awesome and the only way is up, up, up. As I've done in previous administrations, I have to advise some of my young audience a bit of caution. Aping into a stock that just went up $400 billion in a week might not always be the best idea. Now, the other person who's not necessarily winning is everyone at Mar-a-Lago, which is where Trump hangs out when he's not in the White House. Everyone there who has to deal with Elon being there, apparently he's becoming the guest who wouldn't leave.
But one person has loomed over all of that. His name is Elon Musk. Today, they were seen on the golf course together. Musk has been in the room when world leaders have called Trump. And tonight, we've learned he's also weighing in on staffing decisions.
Trump was calling Zelensky about the war in Ukraine, and then Elon walked into the room and just jumped on the phone call. For now, that is a market unstoppable duo. All this is combined together into a moment of euphoria, and we're still in the honeymoon phase. But one question that I keep getting from people like Aiden Calvin, who called me drunk on the road today. Well, he wasn't drunk. But he did call me while driving today. He asked me the following question, and I think it's important. What the fuck are tariffs? I think people need to have a better fundamental understanding of what a tariff is so that we can have a real nuanced discussion about it. Trump will tell you that tariffs...
To me, the most beautiful word in the dictionary today and any is the word tariff. A president who was assassinated named McKinley, he was the tariff king. He spoke beautifully of tariffs. His language was really beautiful.
I want to pull up a quote here from McKinley. He said, "I am a tariff man standing on a tariff platform." Beautiful, powerful language. But he's correct. McKinley was a huge proponent of tariffs, and we'll get to that in a second. But I want to explain just very simply what a tariff is. Countries trade with each other. Sometimes goods are made in one country and shipped to another country. Occasionally, a tariff will be applied on goods coming from another country to make money, to protect American jobs, whatever. They'll apply a tariff. What that means is when China sends a tractor to America, if there's a tariff on it, whoever picks it up will pay a fee to the US government. Here's where it gets tricky. There's a lot of things that happen after that. Number one, if we put a tariff on this tractor coming in from China, they will not respond happily, but instead will put a tariff on this steak coming from America. In all of history, when we have tariffed our neighbors and other countries, they have tariffed us back. And so you protect the jobs of American tractor manufacturers, but perhaps lose the job of American meat packers. The second order effect is this. So imagine this is Chinese tractors, this is American tractors. Let's say the American tractor, we can only make it for $100, but the Chinese tractor, they can make a better tractor or the same tractor for 50. Everyone in America is obviously gonna buy this tractor. So we put a tariff on that says they have to sell it for 5 times the cost, okay? Now they have to sell it for $250. The only problem is in real world, the American guy goes, okay, I'm changing my prices to $249. The American manufacturer ups their prices to right below what the Chinese guy can make. So for the consumer, all you're getting is 2 more expensive tractors to protect this guy's job. The third thing that happens, and this is gonna be one extremely divisive part of Trump's platform, is his stance on trans issues. This is not about that. This is about trans shipping. For an economic streamer like myself, this is also a problem. Trans-shipping is what happens when a tariff gets applied and the company don't really want to pay it. So let's say China is selling goods to America. I mean, a real-world example would be these rubber hoses. This is Sunsong, a Chinese company that makes rubber hoses for auto parts. China can make these really cheaply and effectively. They're really good at it. They have great factories for it. They can pump 1 million of them out. Nobody on earth can make rubber hoses as well as China. America, they want our own rubber hose manufacturers. So we put a 50% tariff on these hoses. What China does, they send it to Thailand first. A rubber hose manufacturer in Thailand picks it up, runs it through their factory, doing nothing to it, and then sells it to America with no tariff. Also, companies like CIMC was selling tractor trailers in America. And then we put a tariff on them because a bunch of American manufacturers complained. And so what CIMC said, we're the best at making these. We're gonna build a factory in America. They made a new logo and a new factory in America, and they added a fucking blue star and an eagle. They changed their whole website from Chinese to built in America, built to last. They changed the name of all their products from like S2139 to the Revere, and they started selling in America. But then they start losing market share anyway because their American competitors are cheaper. And they're like, wait, what? We're doing it all right. We're doing it in America. How are our competitors cheaper? They find out that some of their American competitors are just buying 98% complete Chinese tractors, finishing it in America, and then demanding tariffs on their Chinese competition. And so when you add these artificial kinks in the hose like tariffs, you generally have a lot of weird negative ripple effects. And I want to bring up this guy, cattle rancher Nick Nalder, and he's part of Cowboys for Trump. And he again makes this American beef that we're talking about. Recently, American beef has been under competition from Brazilian and Canadian beef. And so now American beef has to compete. Cattle ranchers like Nick here are mad about it. And so they, when asked about the election, said that imports of beef from other countries put a downward pressure on prices. He also hopes Trump will rein in inflation. Do you understand how these two things are opposite? If we put a tariff so that these companies can't send in their beef and you can keep raising beef prices, then inflation will go up. Tariffs are good for one thing, protecting American jobs in a specific industry. If you really think that Americans need to have jobs in electric vehicle manufacturing or battery or something strategically important, but otherwise, all they do is raise prices and piss off our allies and neighbors. Trump mentioned McKinley was the tariff king, and voters voted McKinley into office with a big mandate. When he enacted the tariffs, they were not well received. Americans suffered a steep increase in prices. The thing Americans are most mad about in the world is rising prices. They voted Biden out because they fucking hate rising prices. We need to be careful that we are not pushing for more policies that are gonna keep rising prices. For Americans, when we think of goods shipped in from overseas, is the fucking Amazon package on our doorstep. I have spoken to an insider, a man who works on the inside. There are some new changes coming for Amazon drivers to make them even more hyper efficient. When they get a package out of the back of an Amazon truck, there is now going to be an AI generated green spotlight that is going to algorithmically highlight the package they need to pick up and put a red X on everyone they don't. Now, where it goes a little bit too far is they're also trying AR glasses that gives them exact locations of where to go and walk at all times. So that they're going to become almost like a human robot, which is a little bit spooky for me because I do not want Huel950 to be playing Mario Kart to deliver our packages. I'm a little worried about that future, but so far I'll give it a win.
Oh!
Pretty bad.
Damn. Maybe she needs some Huel.
All right, look, I can't verify that everything you just saw in that video was 100% real. But what I can tell you is over the last 4.5 months, I've been using Huel and I can highly recommend it. It rules. Basically, around lunch every day, I want a meal that's no frills, no prep, easy, nutritious, low cost. Specifically, I don't want to order a private taxi to deliver me a burrito at an absurd rent payment worth of costs. Huel's been awesome for that. It's a high quality breakfast or lunch for less than $3 a meal, but you can use code Atrioc for 15% off of that, plus get a free t-shirt and shaker, a $40 value for free. Check out Huel, support Marketing Monday, and I'll see you when I'm up there with Bronny James in the NBA. Thanks, Huel. On the fail side, you guys all know Sammy Altman, probably the most powerful face in AI today. But one interesting piece of news came out that I think fits with a larger story we've been talking about for a while. The difference between GPT-3 and GPT-4 was pretty fucking massive. Most people will tell you there's a big upgrade in the capabilities, especially with coding. They are finding out with their new GPT-5 codenamed Orion that it's not so hard to keep exponentially growing. They are reportedly struggling to improve the next model. They spent 10x the money, got 10x the GPUs, but are only getting a tiny increase in performance, much smaller than the previous leap. And they're finding they are already running out of data. They have already scraped the entire internet. And they are finding no easy way to get more good quality data. Everything they're getting now is just more AI generated slop. So I'm doing my part by having Adish upload a new video to train on every single day. In the meantime, it's becoming a real problem. Companies are now trying desperate measures, AI trained on AI generated data, but that comes with problems. Like some of us think of it like this, like an AI playing itself in chess and becoming infinitely smarter. But more realistically, it's an AI reading a slop AI generated article, training on that and getting inbred wrong facts. Speaking of having issues, this guy, Olaf Scholz in Germany, is having fucking issues. He is fucking sad. Is it because he lost his really cool eye patch? That's why I would be sad, but no. He is sad because he's deeply unpopular and his ruling coalition collapsed this week. You see, in Germany, where they have many parties, no one party wins a majority generally. So they have to partner up into things called coalitions to have a ruling coalition. And recently, the Free Democratic Party, which is kind of like a business-friendly left-wing party, they said, fuck it, we are out. So these two are left, but they no longer have a majority. And so he no longer really has a mandate to rule. And now they are asking for an unexpected snap election, basically to get him the fuck out. He currently has one of the lowest approval ratings that I've ever seen for any major Western leader, and they are demanding change. There's only one problem. They are saying they cannot hold a quick election because they don't have enough paper. I assume this is an elaborate stalling tactic. There is no fucking way. One big problem going on in Germany is its deep dependency on China. Germany, its largest trading partner is China, and for the longest time this was really good because Germany could sell things to China. In recent years, because Germany's energy costs have gone up so much, Germany is no longer competitive, and instead of selling things to China, they just buy things from China and then nothing else. Germany's really struggling because China's starting to eat their lunch. But that, of course, brings us to the main event. What does Xi Jinping think in our segment called
Wazzup Beijing.
Welcome to Wazzup Beijing. Let's do a quick recap on what's going on in China to catch up for today's news. Property bubble. It's been unwinding. It's been popping. China's housing market still has not found a bottom. We are seeing falling housing prices, which cause a lot of people that owned houses or bought unbuilt houses to feel sad. In response to the housing problem, China has been growing their exports. Xi Jinping has been all in. Manufacturing growth, high quality manufacturing growth, goods of the future. That means they've been growing battery sales, EV sales, and solar panel sales. China is now at a $1 trillion trade surplus. That means they send out $1 trillion more goods than they buy. This is the largest trade surplus any country has ever had. It is a record. Now, they have plenty of problems at home. The economy, the housing bubble's not solved or anything, but this plan has been just grow manufacturing, grow manufacturing. Europe and America have seen this and have been pushing back with tariffs. So the only way they're able to keep this export growth growing has been two words: the global south. China, in recent years, has realized that the developed economies of the world are not gonna let them do this. They will eventually not let them have such a massive trade imbalance. So what they've started to do is sell more to countries like Brazil, India, South Africa, Venezuela, all global south countries. Like before it was about even, now it is, the blue line has split off. This is where all the growth is coming from. That's why if you go to these countries, you're gonna see a lot more Chinese EVs in stores and Huawei phones. And you're not gonna see almost any of that in the countries a lot of us live in. Does that mean all is fine and dandy? No. Foreign firms, the ones that actually have the money to invest, have continued to pull all of their money out of China. Countries that have money now, let's say those in the West and US, have realized that there's a gigantic decoupling going on where people are trying to get all of their supply chains, all their factories, all their suppliers out of China as these two world blocks start to split apart. Companies that would previously spend a lot of money in China to build factories and do things are no longer doing this. China's having to do it all by themselves. At the same time, the housing bubble means that all of their local governments, imagine the Alabama of China or the California of China or the New York of China, they are dead broke because they made all of their money by leasing the land of housing. Local governments don't have any money. And what they are starting to do is, mess with the one thing that's working, the manufacturing exports. So local governments are now starting to do like heavy random fines on all manufacturers because they need money. Additionally, the deficits have reached such a tipping point that they have to be solved relatively soon. And so they're also doing another thing, which is going after rich people. This is not necessarily a bad thing. China is now realizing that rich people have a lot of fucking money and they need to tax them. They first sent out a note to like all high net worth people in their region that said, you need to voluntarily recheck the taxes you've submitted to make sure you don't owe us more. Go back for the last 10 years and check, because we're gonna check again. Obviously, that caused a wave of panic among Chinese ultra high net worth individuals who have been contacting every possible lawyer, tax attorney, and also like people that can help get money hidden offshore. I didn't know I had to pay taxes when I made millions of dollars on Canadian real estate and Australian real estate. And but we'll follow up on that in future Marketing Mondays. I hope you enjoyed this look into the state of the world and what's going on. It's the beginning of a new era, and a lot of things are going to shake up real quick. Thanks for watching this week Marketing Monday, and see you on next Monday.